troubles me as a Cuban American, but it also troubles me because, you talk about this idea of the border culture, right? Where there's Gloria Anzaldúa, the Chicana theorist, talks about not only that there's a physical border culture, right? But there's also one inside of those of us that are multicultural. I mean, even myself personally, I have my American upbringing and then my Cuban upbringing, and sometimes those things don't add up well. And I think that's what all of us, many of us, share. And yet, we don't talk about race, right? And I think that's troubling. So I titled my race stage, #RaceStage, because that's the hashtag that my class used. So this is the title of my class, Race, Social Justice, and DH, Applied Theories and Methods. And let me tell you, this is the only class that was close to this at all in the course offerings. Right? We were the only ones that were talking about race or social justice. Many of the other ones, like Meg's, and you're talking about feminist theory, but none of the other ones had race in the title. So that's why I knew I wanted to take this course. The moment I saw this title, I was like, yes, I'm in. That's for me. And it was taught by Dr. Dorothy Kim. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about her, because I think she's a really interesting lady. She's a digital humanities medievalist, so you're probably like, what the heck is she doing teaching a race DH class? Well, she's Korean American, right? And so it's the idea I was talking about, that so many of us have these border cultures that we live in every day, and she's no different. And especially as a woman in DH and as a Korean American, she talked to us often in the class about the sorts of things that she has to overcome to even be in this field, and that's why this topic interested her. So she chose to put together this class because she was like, I've been coming to DHSI for a while and I've never seen anything like this. Why is that? And I also thought it was interesting that when we were being, that they were being introduced at the start of DHSI, they were like, we're gonna have everyone that's teaching stand up so you can see who's teaching. She was one of the only females. She was one of the only, it seemed like multicultural people. So I wanted to share this funny tweet with you. Somebody said, oh, we've counted that there are more Johns teaching at DHSI than the NPMC. So I just wanted to share that with you, because that's one of the first things we talked about in our class, because what did you figure when I entered the classroom? Where do you think most of the diversity was? In the room with the class titled Race. We were there. And so this is one of the first things we talked about. And then we also talked about, this was someone in my class named Nikki. She said, to what degree is digital humanities operating as a neoliberal mechanism that digitizes social hierarchies and reinforces regimes of power? This is one of the first things that we started out with day one. We just dove right in. Because like I said, so many of us in that room have been experiencing and living this. This is our experience. So we have to come up with a class project to show at the end. And we were thinking, and it became really clear to us, we needed to talk about race, we needed to talk about inclusivity. So we took a look at the DHSI statement on ethics and inclusion. This is something that they have on their website, right? We're like, let's take a peek. So I'm going to highlight just a couple things for you. The first one that they say is affirm that we are an inclusive organization and community that is anti-oppression and recognizes intersectionalities. They also say commit to helping each other recognize our own positionality when articulating our beliefs rather than enabling assumptions that we are all on the same page. This requires articulation, explanation, asking questions, working respectfully across difference, and showing compassion and understanding. And then this was one that we wanted to focus on specifically, that there's a commitment to educate each other on matters of discrimination and oppression, and support anti-oppression education, pedagogy, and research. And that's really important, especially to our class, because like I mentioned, there was a lot of diversity in my classroom specifically. And we were talking about that even in the introduction ceremony, where everyone was counting the number of Johns. There was a lot of jargon, there was a lot of inside joke, there were a lot of things here's a quote that I pulled from her introduction. So she says, all too often, defining a discipline becomes more an exercise of exclusion than inclusion. Many scholars were drawn to the digital humanities because we felt like outcasts, because we've been marginalized within the academic community. We gathered together because our work collectively disrupted the hegemony and insularity of the traditional humanities. Our work was collaborative to twist, flatten hierarchies, shared resources, created new and risky paradigms. There's been a turn away from critical analysis of its own embedded practices in relation to issues around multilingualism, race, gender, disability, and global praxis. So we talked about how interesting it was, right, that it was supposed to be this new and exciting field, but yet we were stuck in the same rut. We're excluding a lot of people. Like Meg said, a lot of people that didn't even have access to these resources, to these tools, and that's really problematic. So for our project, we drew up a questionnaire, right? And here were our instructions. So we worked in a Google Doc, and we pointed to the DHSI statement of ethics and inclusion, and we said, please respond to two to three of the following questions, right? We asked them if one of their people could come to our class to give us some feedback, tell us about their discussion, and that we were going to just take some of the talking points. That was going to be our presentation at the end. That was going to be what we would present on. So here are our questions. On whose territory are the University of Victoria, your homes, and your institutions situated? And I love this question because it's not asked enough. It's really not. I don't even remember that being brought up here when I started at USF. And it was interesting that they brought it up at the University of Victoria because they are our native land. And you can see that when you're on there. You see these beautiful, beautiful totem poles to acknowledge that. And they did acknowledge it in the opening of DHSI. So I love this question. And then, when do you, or don't you notice, identify and address languages and behaviors that reproduce cis-sexist, queer, homophobic, transphobic, and other forms of oppression? And I love this one because it's really asking people to reflect. It's really asking the uncomfortable questions. Because yes, no one wants to talk about these things, but that's why we need to talk about them. And then to what extent do you make space and time within your classes to discuss the context and potentially oppressive histories of DH topics, tools, areas, and then how might you improve this practice? And then just a few more, how do you center community voices in your DH project? What are the metrics you have in place to ensure that laboring bodies associated with your DH projects are being treated fairly and equitably remunerated? So one thing that was brought up in my class that I wanted to share with you, because I had no idea about this, a lot of the images on like Google Books and things like that, I didn't realize they were scanned in by workers, and a lot of people don't know their names. They're like kept, from what I understood was told in class, they were kept away from the other people workers. So it's just very shameful, and it reflects back on this idea of like the laboring bodies, right? And then what would a DHSI community accountability mechanism that invites ongoing commitment to transformative anti-oppressive DH look like? And then we're talking about my DHIS hashtag, which basically is a commitment to address the oppressive behaviors and histories in digital scholarship and pedagogies. We're asking people to reflect what this means to them. So you can imagine after this is some questions, people probably weren't very happy with us because we're asking the uncomfortable things. And part of it was that we actually individually went to classrooms to give these questions because we wanted to make sure like they were associating with a face. Like, hi, we really are asking you to do this. Please take some time to do this for a project. So the hashtag we used to track it with is #RaceDH, and we invited other people to also use the hashtag to trace their discussions in class. So you can imagine there right? These people from this race class are coming into your classroom and they're telling you, hi, can you talk about the thing you don't want to talk about, race? I'm just going to leave this here. Have a nice time. People were not really happy about it. The first thing was we couldn't call it a questionnaire. You know, it was interesting. The person who was leading DHSI comes into our classroom one day and is like, I'm sorry, you can't do this because that makes it seem like it's research. And so people have not elected to do that, so we had to call it a discussion. So we were able to do it and we called it a discussion. And then some, of course, were not happy about us entering their classroom. I didn't go to all of them, I only went to 2 or 3. But they met us at the door, they wouldn't really let us in. They were like, no, we'll just take it. At least that was my experience. Some people said other classes were more inviting. I just wanted to share this too. So saying thank you, and then talking about race DH discussion in our class. I hear some classes weren't pleased with the idea. We truly had an engaging, productive discussion. And then I want to just point to this one. This conversation that Rach DH has started is so necessary. It's so apparent how DH follows other fields in which those of us who are privileged in various ways don't push against or talk through those issues unless we're forced to. And I love that because it's so true. I think sometimes when some people are faced with this uncomfortable reality or asked to reflect in the way that our questions prompted people to, it's something we want to ignore. And so this one, thanks for HDAs for doing this. Our conclusion is some good advancement attempt. We need to do more and better, which is all we were hoping for. We just wanted to get people thinking about it. And then I wanted to point to this one because this is the actual DHSI Twitter. So someone from my class said hey, are we going to make this an essential part of the pedagogy and work? And so DHSI responds and said, looking forward to continuing the discussion. We'll check in with, and Dorothy is the instructor, and Angel was the other instructor that was supposed to be there but couldn't, about how to list this for 19. And they are offering it in 2019. I will say that because it's checked. So that's at least an improvement. And then I just want to end with this idea of how does this impact me if I'm not involved, engaged, right? If you're in my field. I think it's important because it's not a problem just in digital communities. This is really a prevalent problem in academia where I think we like to talk theories a lot, but we need to practice what we preach. So at Meg, I took one of your tweets because I really liked it. Intersectional feminist theory doesn't always match intersectional feminist practice. We need to practice mindfulness in the ways we see, teach, and act. And so that's why I think it affects all of us, whether or not we're involved in digital communities. It's something that we should all be considering in our pedagogy, in everything that we do. So I wanted to also mention bell hooks. When we as educators allow our pedagogy to be radically changed, our recognition of a multicultural world, we can give students the education they desire and they deserve. And so that's what I really want to end with, is just a reminder that we live in a very multicultural world, and so our texts, our classrooms, our teaching should reflect that. And a way that we can do that, right, is just with listening and knowing not to do harm. That's a good start. Thank you.
Questions for Bianca? Does DHSI, you mentioned a director, do they have a board, group of people that organizes that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can we find images of those people on the website?
I think so, because their names are listed. The people that organize the event are listed
Are there any people
under
of color
DHSI.
that are in the leadership of DHSI?
Not that I know of. I don't know if that's changed. Yeah.
My first suggestion.
And that's why it was really clear when we had that opening ceremony with the introductions. Like I mentioned, where if you were, if you were a person of color, you kind of felt like, oh, let's see. It was uncomfortable. It was a little you already kind of feel a little bit marginalized, and that didn't help very much.
Bianca mentioned that they did open with white men's experiences who got drunk and passed out in an elevator, and how funny that was, as if a woman could do that and it would be funny, it would be super shameful, and you'd probably get dismissed from your institution. But it was a running joke. It was something that was like, oh, look what happens at DHSI, and these white guys have been coming here forever, and they just get drunk, and it's so funny. And that was the experience of everyone else who were relegated to outsiders, who didn't have a lot of representation, who were women in a Me Too moment, you know, listening to this sort of juvenile discussion.
And he was in an auditorium full of people.
Do they have, I mean, I'm not familiar with this at all, so I have lots of questions. But did they have, for example, they must have had like plenary speakers or like keynotes. Did they have anyone associated with like the Standing Rock movement that was completely a DH social activist movement? Who were the plenary speakers that were like what were the
We didn't have any, did we?
There were like brown bag lunch talks that they had, which were optional. I
And
don't
they did
remember.
like little presentations and things I think that you could attend if you
Yeah.
wanted to.
But there weren't any.
The scheduling was so compact that it was difficult to get to them.
And when you take the courses, like, is there a minimum or a maximum or any required?
Well, it depends on who's paying for it, right? So like at USF, we have 7 or 8 spots, and you're only allowed to take one course.
And they run simultaneously, so it's 2
But that's
weeks.
standard, right? It's
Yeah.
just one course
Yeah.
per session.
Yeah.
And there are 2 sessions.
Yeah.
But our funding covers one.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me, just, and this is more of a comment, like, so there's been a lot of conversation, obviously, about the neoliberalization of university, and people see DH as possibly complicit in this because it's like, oh, it's utilitarian, it's technology and jobs, and it seems to me that, like, the more focuses on the utilitarianism on DH, the more that the field of DH starts to almost recreate these same restrictive biases of the university at large. It's almost like, you know, within post-colonialism, you have to defeat the conqueror by his own standards. So I kind of see some of that happening right now. It's like, oh, well, talking about race and gender isn't useful, and it's not, you know, making money. And like, you know, kind of like Dr. I's question, like, who's funding this? Like, it's unfortunate that these things are kind of being shuttled in this field that is supposed to be so cutting edge. So that's kind of more of a, like, a rant, sorry.
We are familiar with the rant.
It was just
I have
that
one with the
realization for me when like I mentioned, Dorothy Kim talked about that like we started this in order to be edgy, right, and to bring in and to be more inclusive, and it's suddenly become more exclusive. And us defining DH is actually push more people away. And so yeah, that does ask the question of like, how do we change that, right? Like what do we do to change that?
And that's super like bro culture, basically. Like, oh, Jews getting drunk in an elevator. Like it's in my field too, like of Irish studies.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh God. Yeah.
it's just the more you try to push out on your own, the more you have to recreate the same standards of exclusion that the wider field has.
I think too is DH is a really visible sort of work. So Dorothy Kim had an awful experience with being a medievalist in digital humanities, where white women pushed back against her and wrote really awful things about her on blogs, and then retweeted them as if she weren't worthy of doing medievalism because she was Korean American. And then Milo Yiannopoulos got in on it and called her awful names on Twitter. Actually, I think that's what he was banned for. So it's a violent sort of response to women and people of color and people who are allies supporting this sort of scholarship because it's very public. And so I think it even has wider social implications.
A couple things that are not as related as I'm here with the age as I'd like to be, but it seems to me, I mean, I'm familiar with all of the Judaic scholars that you discuss, and it seems to me that the same thing that happened
into ethnic studies, like feminism and ethnic studies, where there were these grassroots movements that demanded inclusion in the curriculum. And there were many brown and black and women laboring bodies producing this knowledge. But we're in a moment in time within academia that studies, well, we've been actually been there for a long time, but studies, unless those fields have been given permanent departmental lines, they're often, programs, they get collapsed into programs that they have nothing to do with. And the work that they're doing, I think this particularly interesting, the work that they're doing, they've already done, but they're trying to use DH as this platform to show its relevance and to disseminate that, because so many first-generation students, regardless of their ethnicity, can't access universities. And even if they can access universities, there still is this term of the digital divide, right, that started in the late 80s when, faculty are trying to run DH classes without, they don't have students who have basic necessary equipment, right, and then they don't have the resources. So, I think the questions we've been kind of chatting about is, how do we change this? And, I think it has to be a shift in the way we teach, as you suggested, and as always, unfortunately, the way we talk about what we do. I'm sure that a lot of the problems of the DH, of the techie, and the tool, and the real culture originated in individuals having to justify their existence to the university. And I don't think we're ever going to get away from that, particularly in state systems. So it's interesting to me that some of the work does not feel so new or radical to me, right? People have been doing this since the 60s, but they're using this platform to undermine these oppressions. And I think there's a lot of room to be subversive.
I think that's one of the benefits, the major benefits of DH and how we can use DH in our department, because we're often asked to meet metrics that have to do with technology and student success and diversity and inclusion. And so if we can use these tools in a way that's thoughtful about producing this work that sort of pushes back on those oppressive ideologies, then we can do good work for society and also make the university happy, and also, unfortunately, because we have to do this, justify why English is still important